it was as if I was abusing myself and re-abandoning myself. I was forced to go to Congress. I was forced to draft my own bill. I didn't have a member of Congress. To do the job of a lawmaker, to do the job of folks that have been sworn to protect the American people.
You stuck it out and you got in there, you got into the fray.
I would go work both sides, and I taught myself how to strategize. And every single time I walked into that room, I had a plan already in my head.
Trying to act and talk the way that you think that the people that are in that party want you to act and talk.
We can only fix it if we talk about it. If they live the same way as they did behind closed doors in the public eye, we would be far better off.
You're doing this podcast now, and before the podcast, you were like super well known, and you were on all kinds of news stations, and I know that you had like a lot of health issues and all that. Like, what brought you from going to Congress and talking to these guys and, you know, just running circles around them, basically? What brought you to that, to wanting to do a podcast? You
know, some really bad stuff happened, you know, to me after my VA medical malpractice. And, you know, I was forced to go to Congress. I was forced to draft my own bill. I didn't have a member of Congress. He was forced out of Congress for being dishonorable and I think stealing campaign funds. But, you know, he was indicted. They forced him out of Congress. They lost, you know, confidence in him. And so I had to, you know, kind of pick the pack up from there and march forward in my weakest, most vulnerable time in need. And, you know, drafted my own bill and lobbied it, you know, by myself with some friends, you know, and, you know, a great team I built, you know, of other advocates from across the country. And, you know, I spent 11,000 hours of, you know, my time and, you know, and my efforts and my tenacious, you know, advocacy and, you know, was able to create some good, necessary, positive change that was needed in the VA. And, you know, ultimately, you know, close the 74-year VA legal loophole that has basically, you know, destroyed the lives of veterans and their families for generations. And I couldn't let that go on. And in order for me and my family to have the closure that we needed, I needed to do what I did. And it was as if I was abusing myself and re-abandoning myself, because the work was not for the, you know, the faint of heart. It was full of anxiety and depression, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, all when I'm battling my own demons, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, you know, when we're on the brink of losing everything, to include my health. And so I wanted to see this done fast and efficiently. And that's why I was clear and concise and on point with my lobbying that I did. And I have no lobbying experience. I have no college experience. I was a freaking Marine, and then I owned my own successful custom landscape, you know, business until everything, you know, fell apart. So I had to go in there and basically teach myself on how to effectively communicate and how to effectively advocate and to create and generate my own voice. So when I do talk about the government, I do so in an honorable way, but I do want people to know that when you're dealing, you know, with government people within government institutions and entities, and it's like, they're not always looking out for your best interest. And, you know, that's something I saw with my own eyes. And so when I do speak, I speak from experience, you know, when it comes to a lot of these hot topics and a lot of these current events that are going on in the government. And to be honest, man, I hate politics. I hate politics, but I feel it's my duty, really, as an American, to come out and at least talk about it, right? Silence is consent, you know, is what they say. So, you know, if I can come out and at least, you know, drop my 2 cents, you know, there may be some other people out there that can resonate with that and know that, hey, I'm not alone out there, you know? So it's just, you know, it's just a, you know, a crazy time to be alive. We're living in a crazy world. You know, but I'm very proud of me sticking out the fight I had in Congress, and you know, ultimately having President Trump sign my bill into law to protect 20 million American veterans, you know, from the same fate that my family and I had. And, you know, and I did it for the good of the country. There's no going in there and changing federal law to go ahead and to later benefit from the change. It doesn't work that way. You can't change federal law and then turn around and benefit from it. So again, it was something I needed for closure to effectively move on with my life, knowing that it will never happen again. And there will be this justice in this form of accountability and transparency when veterans suffer due to no fault of their own from VA medical malpractice. And not all doctors and clinicians are bad. We do have bad days. And we can't hold those bad days against the doctors and the clinicians that may be wanting to really try to help the veterans in need. But again, I said we all have bad days. But when bad days happen and when veterans suffer from the fate of, you know, malpractice or, you know, delayed and denied care, there needs to be accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, and something that you said, you know, it could have easily been forgotten. You know, it could have easily just been a politician coming up and being like, hey, so, you know, yeah, we'll take care of it. And then you never hear about it again, you know? So like you stuck it out and you got in there, you got into the fray, into the arena of this political discourse. And you did it, you know, you took it yourself under your wing and you walked it in there, dude. And like that's just a story in itself. I mean, not to mention all the other stories that you have. I mean, it could have easily been forgotten.
Totally. You know, there's something special about walking the halls of Congress too, especially with an honorable message. You know, there's so many folks that walk the halls of Congress that are in there for the wrong reasons. You know, they're lobbying, you know, things that are going against the American people. They're in there lobbying for the newest, latest, and greatest big pharma. You know, and so many of these members of Congress get caught up in all the money, right? And not looking out for the best interests of the American people. And so when you're in there walking those halls of Congress and you know you're doing the right thing for a community that is a very vulnerable and at-risk community, you know, and that's the veterans. And that's why this loophole was in existence for such a long period of time. I mean, 74 years. I mean, 1946 was when this law was enacted, and the tens and thousands of veterans and their families that suffered this. For generations, it was egregious. And I had to do something about it. Again, I was called to serve. I answered that call to service. And, you know, I pray that this type of tragedy, you know, never happens again to any other veterans out there. Because, look, we all know that medical malpractice is going to happen. You know, you're not going to stop that. But what we can stop is the nefarious actions and the criminal intent behind the Office of General Counsel that are denying veterans rightful compensation for injuries that should have never happened in the first place.
Yeah, and this wasn't even just like a malpractice. Hey, you know, we're sorry or whatever. This was like the VA was lying to you, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, so first it was medical malpractice, and then there was medical negligence that took place after the malpractice had ensued, and then legal malpractice happened. And I'm talking dirty politics. So again, when I speak on my podcast, I'm speaking with rational thoughts. I killed Congress with kindness. I earned a seat at the table. I couldn't go in there and run my mouth in a partisan fashion. There's 20 million American veterans in this country that all represent different races and colors and creeds and beliefs and everything. So I was going in there to represent all of them, not just the Republicans or the Democrats, or I was in there to do a job. And I was in there not to waste my time. I was in there to get this done, not the grandstand and all that other stuff. I didn't have time for that. Remember, I was in there for a reason, to close the loophole that destroyed me and my family, and for closure. Again, I deserve to have that closure, that mental closure, so I could begin to heal myself and move on and get 1% better every single day, in which I have done. And the pain's still there. I live with it. It's not easy being me. I look fine on the outside, but on the inside, my body's been destroyed. There is a real thing here about perseverance and about resilience and attacking the day and overcoming these life challenges and these obstacles. You know, back before this all happened to me, I knew what those words were. I knew the definition of them, but I had never lived it out. I'd never faced this type of adversity before, if you will. But now I know what it feels like to live it out and to not just talk about it, but to be about it, to lead by example, to do the hard work that it takes to take back your life, to put in those extra hours, to go out and walk outside when it's freezing, when my body is already aching in pain, you know, to starve yourself an intermittent fast and eat every 24, 25, 26 hours, sometimes every 48 hours, because I know it's good for my body on the inside. I got 4 beautiful kids and a wife of over 25 years. I want to be around for them. There's a lot of give and take here. You know, it's like you can be, if I wanted to be well over 300 pounds, and I was well over 320 pounds. After I got hurt, I was sitting in a chair for years. I was done. I give up. Oh yeah, I gave up for a long time. And this is during my battle in Congress, even when I was walking those halls, that my pockets were filled up with pain, you know, with pain pills and anxiety meds. But I still had to show up and do the job that nobody else was going to do. Congress should have made this change a long time ago. Why did it take a private citizen to go in there to do the job of a lawmaker, to do the job of folks that have been sworn to protect the American people and to do their job with the utmost respect and honor and courage and commitment, the same hallmarks that we all learn as Marines, right? And really anybody that serves in the U.S. Armed Forces. But they expect that from us. And we don't get the same in return. So again, why did it take a private citizen to go in there to do the job of Congress with no representation and to be successful with it? I can tell you why I was successful with it. Because once I earned my seat at the table, I never got up from that seat until my mission was complete. And I ensured that I would go work both sides, and I taught myself how to strategize. And every single time I walked into that room, I had a plan already in my head. There was an acceptance letter, there was a thank you letter, there was a follow-up letter, and a beautiful folder with hard stock paper. I was ready to go. I was prepared. And I saw it all the way through. Yeah, not everybody would sit down with me, but for the 300 members that did, I made sure that they didn't forget my name. And again, I attacked them with those same hallmarks, that honor, that courage, that commitment. Everything that I needed to do to get this mission accomplished, I did. Unlike members of Congress today, all they want to do is fight. They don't want to work together. I think that if we spent more time sitting down and hearing out both sides, we would realize that we have a lot more in common in this country than most people think. But we don't have these conversations because as soon as somebody comes out with an idea, it gets immediately shot down. The name calling ensues. The mud gets slung all over the place. And then what? It turns into a show. It turns into a fest. It turns into this angry, bitter conversation that only divides. And I don't know how we're going to get our nation back on track when we have such a angry people. And it doesn't matter. People could say, oh, I don't do politics or the news all they want to, but they're inundated with it. You cannot do anything or go anywhere without having politics brought up. I'll go out to a local restaurant and somebody will say, how you doing? I'm like, I'm hanging in there. Crazy times. And then the waiter or the waitress will say, yeah, I know. And then they'll go on and talk about for 5 minutes about everything that's wrong in the country. I can't even get a meal without someone giving me their political opinion on stuff. And that's great. But just to give you an example of how in your face it is. And the media will ensure that it's in your face because they want people upset. It's like, does the media not have kids? Do these producers and these directors that put all this stuff out there and all this propaganda in the media, don't they not have families? Don't they not care about the United States of America? Don't they want a clean place, a park, whatever, to go watch their kids or their grandkids play soccer and baseball and, you know, whatever sport that they're in without having to trip over needles and homeless people that are in there that are, you know, doing drugs and, abusing alcohol and this and that. And then having trash and debris and freaking spray paint and, fire smoldering over here from what somebody was, completely destroying last night because of anarchy running rampant in our country because we've defunded our police to the point to where it's like, who are we? And what have we become? And how are we going to fix this mess? Again, it comes down to government. It comes down to the decision makers. And if the decision makers aren't willing to make good decisions, then how are we ever going to find our way out of this? It's as if they want to keep America down. And it's as if they want to keep America completely feuding at with all the citizens at each other's throats. And when anything happens, when even the slightest little things, it's always a blame game. Let's just say, we have 350 million Americans in this country. All right. So say half of those are Trump supporters. And I'm just giving you an example. Say one of those guys goes out and commits a crime. Okay. So you got one out of, 125 million. Everybody will go on to X or Facebook or whatever it may be, and they'll call him a Trump deranged man. Trump, this and that. Okay. And the same thing's on the other side. You got, somebody that's, very far left leaning liberal progressive that goes up and does a lot of damage, commits a crime, a heinous crime. The same thing will be done on our side. Oh, look, it's a left freaking progressive out committing all the crimes and this and that. And yeah, and we're always playing one side to another side. So what are you trying to tell me? That one person is going to dictate one whole side? I mean, it's kind of brushing with a really broad brush. It's a broad brush there. That's a, man, that stroke is very large. It's like the same thing happens in the Marine Corps. You got 165,000 active duty U.S. Marines at any given moment. It's a very small branch, but one Marine goes out and does something wrong in Okinawa or whatever it may be, and they paint the whole Marine Corps as what that one individual did. And again, that's what's wrong with our country right now, is that people aren't rational anymore. People are so extreme on one side or the other. You know, I just started a TikTok account not long ago. I call out just as many Republicans as I do Democrats. You want to know why? Because I see things through my eyes, and I come to the conclusion of what I think is real. And then from there, I make a well-informed decision that I believe is right, and then I talk about it. Now, a lot of the times it may come across as sarcasm, but trust me, I need to be a little comedic during these times, or else you'll go crazy.
You talked about so one person ruins it for everyone. So you were your own advocate, you were your own representative, you were your own whip. So going off of that, one person ruins it for everyone. Does one person make it better for everyone?
I think one person could make it better for everyone if they had good intent and if they were doing it for the good of the country. And it's so hard to put those two together because there's an agenda behind everything. And finding a person that isn't going to put the agenda or their politics over their, say, moral character. And people will say, oh, well, they have no moral character. I disagree. What we see in public life are men and women that don't have any moral character. But when you put them behind a closed door and they're in there having dinner with their family, or they're visiting their mom in hospice, or if they're playing catch with their son, or they're going to a gymnastics meet with their daughter, whatever it may be, of course they're going to have good character and morals and conviction because they're raising their kids and they're spending that time with their loved ones in a meaningful and loving way. So they do have it in them. They do have it in them. And they can make great change if they actually live the same way. If they lived the same way as they did behind closed doors in the public eye, we would be far better off. But it doesn't happen that way. You have two people, you know, you have the at work guy, and then you have the at home guy. You know, the at work guy doesn't have any moral values, and you know, he's a mudslinger or she's a mudslinger, and you know, we got all these issues, and they're going to be the first ones to come out and just spew hate and you know, and all this garbage and rhetoric. But when they get home, they're, hey, Johnny, how was your day at school today? And be a father and to offer that friendly and that wise counsel to ensure their son or daughter that they are going to get great leadership and life skills from their mother or father, you know, and that's the thing. I think that's missing from so many. And I just think that's what's missing, you know, out there. And yeah. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I hope I put that in a way. I'm not a very smart man. I just have a little bit of common sense and a little bit of experience. And, you know, I've got, you know, many years of raising kids, great kids, 4 kids, you know, so it's, again, when I speak, I'm speaking from experience, not just speaking from, well, I think it's like this,
yeah.
you know, so.
No, and I mean, you're very intelligent, you know, and you're intelligent on things that you know about, you know, and that's where it comes to where, you know, everyone kind of picks their little area that they're going to be intelligent in. But if I asked Elon Musk, you know, about some, you know, thing that happened at work, he's not going to know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, you can only be intelligent in so many aspects. But, you know, I think that a lot of people, they do the, you know, because politics is kind of just a game, you know, politics itself. And I think that's the game that they play. And a lot of that goes into like that political correctness. So when you enter that game, when you push start and you go into that game, you know, you enter this kind of mood where you're politically correct. So you go in there, you give a different kind of character, and that's what you want people to see. So you want people to see your ideas. So you go in there and you're like, Trump's the worst, or you go in there and, you know, you're like, Biden's the worst or whatever. So like that's kind of like that political stage of, you know, you don't act the same way as if you were to go and have a beer with this guy, you know, and I think a lot of that plays into that, is that political correctness of trying to act and talk the way that you think that the people that are in that party want you to act and talk. And that ruins it. That puts that veil over, and people don't see the real you know?
Right.
So when they have that veil, and then you lift that veil, and they see you as a person, see you as a real person, and what you actually believe, you know, you could lose a lot of followers that way, you know, because they're like, oh, well, he was just putting on an act. He was just putting on a show, you know? So yeah, a lot of that plays into that. I kind of wanted to go back to the podcast just because, like, I've been very interested in the podcast, and I know that you've had some trouble getting like eyes on it and all that, because, you know, like the whole promotion and social media is so saturated with stuff, you know, so everyone kind of has their little podcasts or their little videos that they like to go home and they like to watch a lot. So building your base and all that, but you, like I said, when you were in Congress, you were your own advocate. You were your own representative, basically. You were your own whip, you know. And then you took that and you made this podcast that you allowed veterans, just a average regular veteran, just to come on the podcast, and you gave them a voice. So, like, how does that make you feel, and how you not only passed these bills? I mean, there's been more than one bill, right?
Well, there was, I think, 5 bills or 4 bills introduced, but they're all kind of just lumped into one bill. But yeah, we've had five bills. Yeah.
So you do all this by yourself, and, you know, you had a lot of support and all that. And then you go in and you give regular veterans who are struggling or having issues or being wronged, you give them a platform and you let them speak. So what made you want to do that? What was it? Was it just because you knew that there was veterans being wronged, or was it, you know, something that you just felt inside where you're like, you know what, we need a voice. I seen from the inside, and it really has to be this way. Like we really need average people to get on and have a voice.
Simple. 17 months ago, I was out on a walk. I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life now? I just spent 3.5 years pushing, you know, several of my bills in Congress. every single day. It was on my mind every second, every minute, every hour of every single day. That obsession was real. 11,000 plus hours of advocacy work in 3.5 years. So when you are so obsessed with something, it completely changes who you are as a person. It makes you engage in ways that you could have never engaged before in anything in life. That means you're all in. You're giving everything that you possibly can. You're throwing at it. And then all of a sudden, all that stuff just ended abruptly. And so I took about a year to just think back on when January 2016 ended, all the way up until when my bill was signed into law on January 5th of 2021. And I said, you know, I didn't have a Brian Tally when I was going through all this. Why don't I give all these veterans out there who may be going through some hard times a Brian Tally? You know, and a voice, you know, and I learned how to be that effective voice and not just say, yeah, I created and generated my own voice, but again, to actually do it and to put it on public display for everybody to do it and to give that hope out there, that beacon of hope to so many veterans out there who are going through so many hard times, to know that if Tally went through something like this and he came out on the other side successful, then I could do the same thing. And just knowing again that I can fully understand where they're coming from when they explain their own trials and tribulations that they're going through. So yes, I've had a lot of veterans on here that have had problems with the VA, and I've given them a platform to speak about it. I've also had a lot of veterans on here that have great stories of perseverance and resilience that I think is great for other veterans to hear. And not just veterans, but everybody. I mean, the American populace or whoever tunes in from around the world. That there is a way out there. You know, there is a way forward. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work, and only you can save you at the end of the day. And, you know, a lot of the times it takes hitting rock bottom. But those rock bottom moments are the ones that are going to shape your life. It's going to shape your life it's going to shape your life one or two ways. You're either going to stay down and you're going to fall and you're going to become a victim, or you are going to put in the hard work and show what it's like to go through adversity and hit that brick wall and find a way through it or over it. And that's where the perseverance and the resilience piece come in. Like I said, I knew the definitions of those words, but I never knew what it felt like to actually play it out and to live it in real life, as I still do today. Again, like I said, it's not easy being me, you know, with, you know, all the surgeries I've had and with the spine that's absolutely destroyed and a paralyzed bladder and a kidney issue and all that stuff. But I keep going. I keep moving forward because I want to live the best life I possibly can. And in order for me to have the best quality of life for me and my family and me looking down the road is to do what I do every single day. And that's to put myself into very uncomfortable positions, you know, because I think that's how you grow. You know, I don't want to go out and walk, but I have to. It's uncomfortable, but that's how you grow. I'm hungry. I want to eat right now, but I can't because I know that my schedule won't allow it. That's uncomfortable. But once you start to do it and go through all this life experiences, you'll find it gets easier and easier and easier. It'll make you mentally stronger, and it will also make you physically stronger. And once you have that strength is contagious, and other people are going to want that. So if I can have a podcast that I can reach the hearts and minds of millions, give people a voice, and give people a platform to express themselves in a way that no other people out there may have known their struggles, well, then I'm doing my job. And that's how we save lives in this community. And again, it's not just veterans. Even though the veteran population is an at-risk and vulnerable population, 22 veterans a day are taking their lives. But the same amount are taking their lives in law enforcement and EMTs and paramedics and firemen and doctors and nurses and clinicians alike that are always surrounded by trauma. So real life it's raw and it's vulnerable. And I think people need to talk about it. And mental health is a big issue in this country. But we can only fix it if we talk about it, and to break that stigma and to say it's okay not to be okay, right? And I use that word lightly, if you will. It's okay to not be okay if you are going through struggles, if you're just a regular Joe. But it seems as if a lot of the folks I've had on my show, it's not okay to not be okay if they have high-profile jobs, because if they go in there and speak up about their own issues, a lot of the times they'll be forced out of that position, or they'll be let go due to, you're taking this med. So even though you're living a life of contribution and success, we no longer look at you as an asset to our company or to our organization because you take a anxiety pill or a depression pill. And I think that's a big issue that's going on in the country right now that isn't being talked about, because the government will be the first ones to come out and say, we need to prevent suicide. It's at an all-time high. It's an epidemic in this country. It's very real. It's okay not to be okay. Go get help. But as soon as you speak up, they will end your career. And that's sad.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes, you even have people that, were never in the military, or, maybe they didn't serve as long as other people or whatever. A lot of people can go in that dark place. And sometimes that's what it takes is to hear that someone else has been there and know that that's not an anomaly, right? So I've been in that dark place where you feel like you're alone, and to know that you're not alone, to watch other veterans that have been at that rock bottom. I mean, losing jobs, drugs, being homeless, all those issues that's out there, they've went through. And most of these veterans that you have on your podcast, big names that, like, if you were a veteran, or if you knew anything about the military, like those names that you see on like the books and on like news channels and everything else, you've had those people on here. And these are people that have been through those dark times and came out successful. You have the stories of, the people that don't come out of those dark times, and that sucks. But the people that you have on your show are people that went through dark times and they came out successful. So, just your podcast itself, even if it was just your podcast, out of all the stuff that you've done, it's just great for someone to sit down and watch and experience those stories. Because it's so great. There's so much information. There's so much context there that could help you, anywhere throughout your life. And,
mm-hmm.
and I think it's a great thing. I think what you're doing is really awesome. If I could, I would put you in front of 300 billion people to watch your podcast, man, because I think that they're so good.